Hello and welcome to VOA's Red Carpet. My name is Jackson Vunganyi. Thank you so much for joining us today. On this episode of Red Carpet, a new documentary uncovers the history of Richmond's first black newspaper. Ugandan artist and former presidential candidate Bobi Wine hopes that his new film will draw attention to the political situation in Uganda. In tennis, and cultural icon Serena Williams bids farewell to the game that she has dominated for over 2 decades. Let's get on with the show. And let's start the show with some of the latest entertainment news from around the world. Ugandan artist and former presidential candidate Bobi Wine hopes that his new film will draw attention to the political situation in Uganda. The documentary Bobi Wine, Ghetto President, is a behind-the-scenes look at the Wine's transition from reggae star to Ugandan presidential candidate. Wine, whose real name is Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu, was the main challenger in the 2021 vote against longtime leader Yoweri Museveni. Wine, who was detained and harassed multiple times ahead of the vote, rejected the outcome as rigged, claiming there was video evidence of the military stuffing ballot boxes, casting ballots for people, and chasing voters away from polling stations. Speaking at the Venice International Film Festival, Bobi Wine said that he hoped the film causes the international political community to reflect on what they are sponsoring.
In a dictatorship, you don't plan, you don't decide the next course. It's a dictatorship that decides. I might tell you I want to do this, and then when I go back home, I'm kept in jail for a certain amount of time, or even do the worst to me. So I don't know. I just live every day as if it's my last day. And I want to make sure every day I work, I speak, and I act like there's no tomorrow. Yeah. For me, tomorrow is a luxury.
The Headies Music Awards, that's the Nigerian equivalent to the Grammys, hosted their 15th edition in Atlanta, Georgia. That's the first time the popular awards are held outside of the continent. And for years, the Headies have been a platform to celebrate outstanding achievements in the Nigerian music industry. Afrobeat star Wizkid won big, taking home the most awards, including Album of the Year, Best Afrobeat Album, Song of the Year, and Best R&B Single for Essence. Burna Boy was named Best Male Artist and African Artist of the Year, while Pato Ranking won Best Reggae R&B Dancehall Album and Recording of the Year. Davido won the Digital Artist of the Year and Humanitarian Award of the Year. Newcomers Thames won Best R&B Album of the Year, while singer Ira Star won Headies Viewer's Choice. Fireboy DML won Best Afrobeat Single of the Year. 23 years ago, Serena Williams won her first Grand Slam title in New York, and she said her goodbyes in the same place in front of a sold-out crowd at Arthur Ashe Stadium. But the wins and the records are just one part of the story. Now, despite her unparalleled success, Williams will long be remembered for how she and Venus changed the sport and inspired young black women.
Fans were there to watch Serena Williams swing her racket the way she has done in 23 Grand Slam single titles. Williams has done it more than any other person in the professional era of tennis that began in 1968. However, this time, many fans turned out to see Serena Williams' last act, having announced that she is ready to move on from her playing days. The United States Tennis Association, USTA, said it sold more than 16,500 tickets for the tournament on the day Williams revealed her intentions, more than in the previous 7 days combined. That included more than 4,600 for Monday night alone, making it a sellout. For black women in particular, Serena Williams' rise to the top of tennis is an inspiration.
She has paved the way for the future of tennis for black and brown girls and every little girl to say, I can do this too. She overcame tremendous obstacles to play a sport that is not a sport that's played in the urban areas. So tennis is in great hands because of her.
A new documentary, Birth of a Planet, tells the story of the legendary black newspaper, the Richmond Planet, and the group of 13 formerly enslaved men in Richmond, Virginia, who, under the leadership of its editor, John Mitchell Jr., operated a paper that gained reputation as an advocate of racial equality. The journalists used the printing press to fight the shocking realities of the Jim Crow South, even as they were in constant danger themselves. Here is more on that story. In an era defined by lynchings, segregation, and voter suppression, a newspaper, the Richmond Planet, the town's first black newspaper, exposed stories of brutality, racism, and injustice, issues that many civil rights advocates say remain just as relevant today as they were 140 years ago.
Now, the Richmond Planet, first African-American owned publication in the state of Virginia, with the fighting editor, John Mitchell Jr. And John Mitchell Jr. realized the power of the word, realized the power that the press could bring, and wanted to tell the stories of African-American or black people of that time. And John Mitchell was just a profound leader who understood business, and I like to say he left us a blueprint for not only what society could have been doing 100+ years ago, but what we should still be doing today.
Ron Carey, the head of Tilt, a Richmond-based company behind the production of the film, says that it was a time when lynchings, segregation, and the rise of the Ku Klux Klan presented a constant danger to the black community.
Well, clearly, we know at least 3 of the folks involved with the founding of the paper were demoted at their jobs because 3 of them were educators and involved at a very senior level in education in Richmond public schools. And much of the society that was opposed to kind of the self-improvement aspect that was taking place with the black community looked at some of these individuals and said, these are the folks we want to punish. So it played a role in terms of sharing what was going on in society. It was a dual publication to the traditionally white publication in the city of Richmond. It told the true story of what was going on from a lynching perspective and conviction, or what might be taking place across the state. So it was really the paper of record for the African-American community, where one might go if they wanted to get the truth.
Carey says that it was important to tell the story of the Richmond Planet and the courageous men who used their pens to fight for the civil rights of their community, in spite of the risks and dangers to their lives.
Profound impact, because at one point, well before civil rights, Maggie Walker, who was here, John Mitchell Jr., who were here, leveraged the paper as a tool, a vehicle for spreading the word to the African-American population, to say things like, wait a minute, we should have fair, equal rights to ride the rail cars across Richmond, and we've been designated pushed to the back. And so at one point they left. They literally walked off and called for the black community across Richmond to boycott, and ultimately bankrupting that business. And so the paper was a powerful tool for sharing information and strengthening, raising numbers in terms of supporting causes, because it wasn't just about John Mitchell Jr. John Mitchell Jr. wanted to make it about us and the community.
Nigerian master of musical fusion David Amron is an American composer and multi-instrumentalist whose rich career spans decades. For VOA, Aaron Feder visits him in Beacon, New York, to learn more about some of the instruments he plays from around the world and why he believes music is so universally appealing.
He's gonna sing the blues for you. Get yourself a bottle of bourbon before the evening is through. This is a hulose from China.
David Amram was multicultural before multiculturalism existed. He has always had a curiosity and fascination with people.
This is the dumbek, what they call it a darbuki or a tabla or a tov, depending on which country you go to, but it's all essentially very similar instruments.
He's worked with so many incredible people that sometimes, as an adult, I'll look at something that he's done and it's kind of like, I'm just like, what? How did you know that person? Like the connections that he has is just so, there's such a vast array of people too, from so many different worlds. The collaborators that he's worked with are kind of the greats in their field, and they all love Dad.
First true musical experience was when I was 6 years old and my father bought me a bugle. Took out this shiny bugle and started playing it himself before I could even touch it. And after about 10 minutes of not being able to get much of a sound, he handed it to me. I went, and I hit a sound, and it actually was like music. I was blown away. I said, oh my Lord. Native American people believe that all of this was a gift to us by the great Creator. And whatever religion we are all gifted by music as being something we'll never understand, but we know is bigger than us and nutritious and valuable.
The Cowgirls of the West Museum in Cheyenne, Wyoming tells the hidden story of the women on farms and ranches who helped build the American West. As VOA's Catherine Gibson explains, one of the most important stories it tells occurred in 1869 when Wyoming became the very first state in the nation to give women the right to vote.
Cowboys and gunfights. The legends of the American West are instantly recognizable. But in the western state of Wyoming, in the capital city of Cheyenne, one museum is trying to make cowgirls and the fight for women's rights a part of that story.
Our grandpas and our dads all get celebrated out at the Old West Museum down here, and not one thing for our moms and grandmas, and that was not right. And then there were a lot of old vintage, early cowgirls who rode the rodeo circuit with the guys in the late 1800s, early 1900s, and nothing about them either.
Pam and Jerry Cooper are dedicated volunteers who have painstakingly collected early artifacts to tell the stories of the women who ran farms and ranches in often tough conditions. In 1869, Wyoming became the first state in the nation to give women the right to vote, as it expanded to encourage settlers.
They opened up land. You got 160 acres. If you build a living structure on it, and if you made a living off that land for 5 years, it was yours. That was called homesteading. What they didn't anticipate was several women came and homesteaded. So after 5 years, some of the women said, is this law true? Do we really get to vote? And they were told yes.
Nicknamed the Equality State, Wyoming also had the first female judge and female governor. And that reputation for independence extended into the early 20th century, when women rode bulls side by side with men.
And if you see the big picture of this, this is all mud around here. So here she is. She's got that bull down with her arm around his neck, and she's waving. I mean, how could you not have her as your hero?
The nonprofit museum came close to closing during the COVID-19 pandemic, but was saved by community donations.
This woman came up to me and she handed me a $100 bill for a donation. And she said, it's about damn time. And that's the way most of the women feel.
History, the Coopers say, is a humbling experience to preserve.
Thank you for watching VOA's Red Carpet. My name is Jackson Vunganyi. For more of your entertainment news, check us out at VOAAfrica.com. We are also on Facebook, Instagram, and on YouTube. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, goodbye everyone.